We are Makilala TV, the first Filipino-American TV talk show in the New York metro area. Get to know us as we talk to the community leaders, innovators, advocates, and emerging artists who affect Filipino-American life.
We all want to help someone. We all want to make an impact because we feel happy when we help others. What if I tell you that you can help feed a child for just 5 cents? Yes, 5 cents. Well, Advancement for Rural Kids, also known as ARK, figured out a solution. ARK's 5-cent lunch is the world's first self-sustaining lunch program. Its mission is to chase impact, to feed and get rural kids back to school, create new income with their families, and inspire the communities to invest in themselves. Invest in themselves. 3 words that you will hear a lot today, probably. So how does ARK do all that? I'm Jen Fuhrer, together with my co-host Rachelle Ocampo. We welcome you to Makilala TV. Joining us in the discussion as guest co-host is Lenn Almadin-Thornhill, an assignment editor with Fox News and freelance reporter and producer for ABS-CBN News. Our guest panelists are Ayesha Vera-Yu and Paolo Española. Paolo Española works at an enterprise software company during the day and at night produces a podcast, thinks out loud on his blog, and dreams up menus for his pop-up dinners. He believes that food can be used to solve most of the world's problems and that in breaking bread, we break boundaries. Ayesha Vera-Yu is ARK's CEO, co-founder, and chairwoman of the board. Ayesha's radically changing social impact. The children whose lives ARK has changed describe Ayesha as someone who inspires them to dream big and to believe that you can turn the unbelievable to something real. Everyone, welcome to Makilala TV.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you first of all, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Lenn, Paolo, Ayesha, welcome back.
Thank you.
So
excited.
as you can tell, I'm a fan. I just want to let you know of ARK.
She's got the orange.
There's some biases. There's biases on the.
So can you tell everybody what is ARK's 5-cent lunch program?
Sure. So the 5-cent lunch is a vegetable and protein lunch. It's served in school to all of the kids the entire school year. And it's a program that we do in partnership with the parents, the teachers, and the community. And it's a lunch that parents pay for and contribute to day one and fully fund on their own after 3 years. So yes, it is 5 cents. And how ARK partners with the parents is we catalyze that 5 cents. We pay 80% of that 5 cents in the first year. The parents pay 20. In the second year, it's 50-50. In the third year, the parents are paying 80%, ARK is paying 20. And in the fourth year, parents are paying it all on their own. Wow. So it's a self-sustaining lunch that solves hunger, solves malnutrition, gets kids back to school, and as you pointed out earlier, it creates instantaneous income because everything in the lunch is bought from the parents and the local community.
5 cents. How did you come up with 5 cents though? Where did that?
We didn't come up with that.
Oh.
The parents came up with that. And how it came about is we asked the parents, what is the allowance that they can give their kid every day? And the parents, everyone had different kind of discretionary incomes, right, what they can give. But we said, well, why don't we solve for what 70 or 75% of the parents can afford to give every day? And so at first you'll see like hands go up, and right now we are in Capiz and in Coron. And in those communities, you'll hear people say, oh, well, it's, 20 pesos, because that's the cost of a lunch in a village in Capiz. Then you'll see just only a few hands. And then, okay, we're like, we need to bring that down. We're like, okay, 10 pesos, more hands go up. And we're like, okay, that's still not 75%. And then it went up, more hands went up as we brought the price point down. And the price point was based on either 2 peso and 50 cents or 3 peso as the allowance that parents can give their kids every day.
Wow.
And so that's one of the principles that we use in ARK, which is to solve an issue, you have to solve from within, because the solution lies right next to the problem. And in solving for, how do we create a lunch, let's think about what is affordable to the parents and what can they sustain every day. And so there's certain communities where it's 2 pesos and 50 cents, so that's kind of like under 5 cents US dollars. And then there's some that would say 3 pesos, and that's like spot on 5 cents. So they come up with it, and we work with a community, we partner with the parents and the teachers in figuring out a structure so that those parents, those 25 or 30% of the parents who can't afford to pay 2 pesos and 50 cents every single day, that they get prioritized to be like the suppliers to the program. So that way they can afford to do it. And when I said earlier about us catalyzing it, it just gives the community a 3-year time path or plan to make that change in behavior, right?
So
and for that,
on the third year, they're on their own.
On the fourth.
After the fourth year, they're on their own.
So
That
it's
is- I
80,
feel like
50,
that's-
20, 0.
I feel like that's so important to make sure that you get their feedback first versus, oh, I'm American and I'm going to go change your community because it makes me feel good.
Correct.
You really make sure that they're involved in the first step.
Yes.
So now, Paolo, how are you connected, like your business enterprise, podcasts, pop-up dinners, how does that connect with ARK?
So the first time I was exposed to ARK was actually at the summit
Yes.
at Unipro. And I remember sitting in the chair. At the time I was an accountant, so my head was totally, fully in business. And so imagine you're sitting in my chair and you see someone like Ayesha who comes up, who talks about her background in the same world where we were in, and pivoting towards food, which has always been my passion even as a kid. And so that's how I became connected, of saying, okay, here's a person who's tackling an issue that I really care about, with that business mindset of, okay, how do we create solutions that aren't just feel-good philanthropy, so to speak? So I think that's how I became connected of, okay, can I marry those two worlds? Because before that, I didn't know you could do that. I thought it's either you go into cooking or you become an accountant. And there was no, there was no middle ground. And so it was a very different message seeing Ayesha talk about solving things from this very like data-driven business mindset. And that's what drew me initially.
How do you guys choose a community to help?
So there's so many people and there's so many communities that are currently in struggle. And like what Jen said, and yes, I'm going to say it now, so let's count. We only invest in communities that want to invest in themselves, because we can be catalysts, we can be champions for people. But it's going to be very, very hard for you to be a champion of someone if that person or that community is not ready yet for change, or is not determined to make a different path out of poverty.
So have you gone to communities, pitched it, and just sort of walked away and say, not ready?
So when we first started, it was really word of mouth, because when we started in 2009, 10 years ago, we just thought, let's pilot in one school. We met a school that actually the lunch, that solution of feeding the kids so that way kids can come back to school, that wasn't our solution. That was a solution that came from CBarrio1, which was our first partner community. And when, after 3 months, results were already positive, like attendance, even in the first week, would go from 70% to over 90%. And then they've never had parents so involved in a program as they've had in ARK. And you see malnutrition like really go down after like a month or two. By 2, it's like it's gone. You don't see it anymore. And from the teachers, you hear that the kids are doing better in school. Like they're asking a lot of questions. They're coming in with a lot of ideas. And so in the rural areas, even this is even like social media, cell phones. I mean, the chismes was so quick. And it was literally word of mouth. Like it was truly word of mouth. So after I think not even 12 months, there were 3 other schools that came to us and said, hey, we want to partner with you because you're solving something with CBarrio1 that we want to solve too. And they knew. So they knew that the way we engage is different. They knew that it wasn't going to be handout. And some of the ones who There were ones who have applied that ended up not partnering with us, and it was some elements of the community did not buy into that, like they were not ready for that new path. And so we look for, now, initially we were growing through word of mouth, but now we hold guppy hunts. So we use food as a way to gather people, and also just food and something fun. Whatever that is that the people in the areas that we're in, whatever that is that they're really interested in doing, we anchor it on what is fun for them, what's going to be relaxing, what's going to be cool, what's a new experience for them. And then we have a dialogue, right, over food as to what it is that they want to solve. And if their dreams and what they want to solve aligns with our dream, then we advance that conversation. And in those types of conversations, yes, there will be communities that are going to be united, because the second thing that we look for is the entire community working together. So the parents, the teachers, the village leadership, the barangay leadership, they all have to come together and set aside whatever petty issues they have in the village and actually declare and dream for what it is that they want to solve, and then prioritize and work together.
So there's definitely that sense of commitment before.
Yes,
it's
before.
not just like, oh, I want
Yes.
to partner because you sound cool.
Correct.
Yeah.
We really look at that demonstrated determination, and the way we look at it in ARK, it's very simple, like from a diagnostic tool. Let's start with the garden. In the rural areas, actions speak louder than words. So if they're really determined, even before we put $1 into the operational budget, they're already building gardens in school. They're building gardens in their own backyards. They're building kitchens on their own. They're bringing in water if water is needed in the school. And they're doing all of that on their own time and their own dime. We don't have any capital in yet.
They've invested in themselves.
Oh, exactly. Second one.
Can you give me an idea for somebody who's not familiar with the program? What does it look like? Like a kid's going to school, and then what, they get a food ready, or how does it work? How does a 5 cents work?
So the program itself is run primarily on a volunteer basis by the parents and the teachers.
Parents of the kids in school.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And there will be a volunteer team leader who is a parent and a teacher.
Okay.
And the teachers support the parents in operating it.
Okay.
And there is one hired chef. So 5 cents pays for the lunch, the actual raw ingredients, and the salary and benefits of the chef.
Wow.
So ARK pays in advance.
No. Wait,
Okay.
just hold that thought.
Okay.
Let me answer hers and then we'll get to that. And
the
everything
ingredients
is
are from the neighborhood, from the community.
from the parents themselves.
garden.
From the parents.
Yeah.
So imagine 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Imagine we're all going to school.
Right.
Right. It's like nice and bright, hindi pa mainit. Right. It's cool, and you will see some of your classmates, if you can imagine going back when you were 10 and walking, and it's beautiful. You see rice paddies on the side. You go in and you'll see some of your classmates bringing in fresh vegetables, literally harvested that morning.
Okay.
You'll see some parents bring in a chicken that's still live, right? All of that is going to get it will be prepared and cooked starting 8:30.
Okay.
And so what the kids are getting is a big bowl of fresh vegetables, organic, seasonal, and it's vegetables and protein. And it's all bought from the community, the parents and the community. Now the parents, the garden that they created in school, that is their gift. So whatever vegetables that get harvested in that garden gets gifted to the program.
Okay.
And so that becomes kind of like their savings plan. And then based on the savings plan, that's when we also match that, and that becomes the seed capital for a scholarship, as an example, if that community is dreaming for sending their kids to high school on a scholarship plan. And what the kids get, as I said, every day, it's, every season, right? It's what's growing that season and what's fresh. And it's really good. Like when I go to the field, I have fresh, like I tell them, I just
like
want to
farm
eat.
to table.
It's absolutely farm to table.
So then
Absolutely.
going back to
and
Jen-
indigenous.
Going back to Jen's question about how the salary and benefits work, is it only the chef that gets that, and
Correct.
who pays for that?
Correct. So the 5 cents, which is paid by both ARK and the parents, fund the raw ingredients, which is about 2/3, depending on the size of the school. It could be 2/3 or like 3/4 of that 5 cents. And then the remainder is basically the chef's salary and benefits.
And then
And to your point, we don't prepay. So for example, when a school partners and we all sign the commitment, they've shared with us what their dreams are, what their priorities, what they want to solve in the next in that year using the ARK lunch. Each stakeholder literally writes down what they're committing to do. And so some of the parents would commit, okay, we commit that 15% of the vegetables will come from the garden, whether in school or our gardens, and it will be gifted. The barangay captain and the barangay council will say, we're going to put money into this. We'll put 10 to 25,000 pesos into it. And that becomes kind of like the safety net, you know. So for example, if there's telecommunication expenses, right? Like when they have to show, when they want to share the results of the program, they have to spend money for that. That can come from that bucket. The teachers would commit and say, okay, we will help support the parents and we will help them analyze the results and manage this and communicate with ARK. So each stakeholder commits to something that they want to do to make this 5 cent lunch program happen for the community. And in terms of funding, we both fund together. So in that operation plan that they sign off in the beginning of the year, they decide, okay, do we pay weekly starting Monday? And it's, you know.
They dictate the terms too. in that one.
Absolutely. And then our funds go in every month.
so this is probably why some people are kind of turned off, because
It's so much work.
It's actually really a lot of commitment, but you really get a lot out of it in the end.
Well, you're solving, yes. I think the first thing is the fear comes because number one, it's different, it's new, right?
They're not used to not
They're
having
not
handouts.
used to this. And this is the only lunch program in the world that's self-sustaining. The only one. Like I've been doing this for 10 years, and we've looked at many comps. And the 2 largest lunch programs in the world are state-funded, China and India. Their lunch programs cost 50 cents. And most of those who benefit from that are corporations who are in the food space, catering people, basically, and then it gets, distributed. And what actually gets to the kids is whittled down. So they budgeted 50 cents, but what the kids get is actually like a value of 5 cents.
So
I have a real quick question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The menu. Let's say you're a chef, right? What if you don't? One of the kids don't like the vegetables that you're serving.
They get chicken. That's all
They
they
get
get.
the chicken.
Which some people would say is an upgrade just from a cost basis, right? But I think the question of like, how do we get kids to eat vegetables? It's a
Right.
broader one that I think is almost a non-issue. I basically back to this conversation I had with one of the other chefs who's helped with ARK, Josh. At the time, Josh, who was basically like a kid genius chef, he's been cooking since he's
A
like
master
the Master Chef
Junior
Junior.
he was a
finalist.
Master Chef
Right.
Junior. And I actually asked him this question. I said, why is it that, there's not more kids like you cooking or even enjoying this type of food instead of just processed food? Which is also, I think, what people in our communities back home are used to, right? We get a packet of Maggi noodles and that's it.
Or spam in the morning.
Right. I asked him, why is it that what makes you special? He actually said, there's nothing special about me as a kid. I wasn't taught any skills that many other kids probably couldn't learn. It's purely belief. It's only because we've been told as kids that we shouldn't like vegetables or that we can't cook.
Correct.
Or in my case, that I should go into accounting.
Right.
So I hope my dad's not listening. But I think that's if a kid.
But well, let's say you're one of the students
Yep.
in our community, right?
Right.
And then you walked in, and the first thing you see is vegetables.
Yep.
I don't like vegetables. What do I eat now?
I have
What
an answer to
happens?
that.
Yep.
All of the parents thank ARK. Actually, that's one of the fears of the teachers. They're like, oh my God, this is at least 80% vegetables. Our kids are not going to eat it. First day, when there's 100% attendance, the teachers are blown away because they're like, oh my God, there's nothing left in the caldero. It's all eaten.
But did any of the kids complain at least?
No.
No, really?
No.
Even if there's an initial complaint,
No.
I think
It
a
whittles-
lot of
there's-
the fear is also self-manufactured, because the fact that we have to ask, what if my kids don't like it?
Correct.
Is already,
We're
I
the
think,
ones you're
self-defeating.
instilling.
right?
We're
Yeah.
injecting that fear in the kids.
So those little kids eat okra.
Everything.
Talong.
To what Lenn said, they eat what is
No,
served.
I don't
And what
like
protein
eggplant.
though? What
Yeah.
protein do you serve? Oh,
Oh,
chicken.
it's
chicken.
well, it's not just chicken. It's whatever
Fish?
that is in that community. So the
and
lowland.
nanay and tatay, they all, either one, they come in and help and volunteer and cook.
Yeah. So in our lowland communities, in our coastal communities, you'll have more fish and more seafood. In the upland communities, you have definitely a lot more, chicken. But in the upland communities where there's streams and waterfalls, sometimes they even have like crabs in their menu. And they have like suso. They have like a lot of indigenous protein base that's in there. And then mung bean, mungo. I mean, that's a really great green protein. But so that's the other thing too, that when parents give us their feedback about the ARK lunch, the first thing that they say is like they're so happy that their kids are healthy now.
Yeah.
The second thing that they say is that it saves them so much money, right? Because as I said earlier, the cost of a lunch in a village is 20 pesos. And that's in Capis. In Coron, it's 65 pesos because all of the vegetables in Coron come from Manila and come from Mindoro. So the third thing that parents say after those two is that we are so happy that our kids are now eating vegetables and we don't have a hard time feeding them at night. There's also an element of peer pressure. So I agree with Paolo. A lot of that fear comes from the parents. Is like he's going to be 3 in January. He eats everything. The first time he could eat
Yeah.
like solid food,
I was surprised.
He ate, you know what it was? It was roasted Brussels sprouts. Because the middle of a roasted Brussels sprouts was so soft. And I'm a lazy parent. I do not mash things. I literally just went from the oven, cooled it, took the middle, serve it to him. That was his first solid food. So
My question too again is that it's like a no-brainer. 5 cents should really help everyone. Why is it not in a lot more communities in the Philippines?
Or in other countries.
Well, or other countries. But let's say the Philippines. ARK's on 16 communities, serve 1 million lunches, right? But how come, let's say in Bohol or in Bacolod?
So it's because we need you guys to scale to something like, to scale and share it to the rest of the Philippines, which is our dream. We actually need people like you, everyone here in Makilala, because you are providing a medium for us to tell many people that this solution exists, right? So that's number one. Number two is the more people we have involved championing communities, then the communities have the confidence that even though they're doing something different and something new and something that they're scared of, if it's kind of like us, if we had mentors and if we had champions, they would do it. They would say yes to it. Because all they really need is for someone like any one of us here to believe in them.
Can I try to answer that question as well?
Yeah.
On why it hasn't gotten across, and I want to go back to the idea of belief. I think there's so much inherent beliefs that are kind of self-limiting, right? Perfect example is, I was told that the only way to stay in America, right? Because I grew up in Saudi Arabia, the only way to work here is to find a big corporation to sponsor your visa. I didn't know that I could actually cook and do private catering. In fact, Ayesha was our first client.
Wow.
And she was like, why not, right? So if someone tells you, imagine, they tell you that the average cost of a meal is 50 cents, and someone says, cut that by 10, make it 5. Our first reaction is gonna be, no way. My kids aren't gonna like vegetables, this, and it's a belief thing, and I think that's what makes it hard, not just from a scaling perspective, but why these solutions don't even grow as fast as we'd like them
It
to.
seems like there's so much to talk about, but there's one thing before we're running out of time. I've heard about the do-it-yourself garden. Is that something I can have and do it myself and here in New Jersey and be
The
able?
do-it-yourself toolkit.
What is that? What is
So,
the do-it-yourself?
I'm very, very happy you brought that up because that's actually our second prong to sharing the solution across the Philippines and other parts of the world. So since we started ARK, there are many people who wanted every year who come to us and say, can you bring this solution to my part of the world, whether it's Bangladesh or whether right now in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
I was actually just on the phone with the coordinator of the 4 communities in Sierra Leone who really like the ARK lunch solution because it will enable the communities, their parents, to secure their family's food. It will enable the communities to secure their food, secure their schooling, and secure their future.
So how do they get about,
And
because we're running out of time,
so-
how do we get a do-it-yourself kit?
Toolkit. So
Toolkit.
one, sign up for ARK, ruralkids.org. We are developing that toolkit now. That toolkit is actually being used in Sierra Leone. They've literally developed
So
gardens.
you don't have to be there, they just do it themselves?
Yeah,
Okay.
like they're funding their school lunch on their own. They develop these gardens that are even wider than the gardens in the Philippines, using the ARK principles of investment and also using our structure for the ARK lunch.
Wow.
So it can be done. It
Okay.
can be scaled.
So
it goes
don't
back to
forget-
belief.
Don't forget to sign up. I can't believe this is it.
It's so quick.
We have so much more to talk about, but that's it for our panel.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for gracing our show. Lenn, Paolo, Ayesha,
Thank you. Thank you.
Rachelle, and to our
you.
viewers, thank you
Thank
for
you.
inviting us to your homes, and hopefully you learned something new. As always, let us remember to be kind, be true, be fierce, and do things that tickle your heart. And remember to ask questions. To the cast and crew, thank you. Maraming salamat. So ulitin. Till next time here at Makilala TV.